Luminary, welcome back to our third week of February's forecast, our Business StarCast. It is our most active week of all of February, with Mercury re-entering Aquarius, the full moon in Leo, and then the sun saying goodbye to Aquarius and hello Pisces season. So tune in as I share all of our Business StarCast, plus celebrate the 2-year anniversary of this humble podcast, the Savvy Luminary. Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. Welcome, Luminary. Welcome back to another episode. It has been a week. I've, been on the socials and listening to clients and just kind of hearing all of the weird things that have been going on this week from haters and from kind of just challenging issues. And for me, just my energy just sinking down to zero. There's just been days this week that I just couldn't even wake up and I just don't even know what was going on. So I know that earlier, if you've been listening to me for a while, I've been talking about how 2022 is going to be my year of regeneration. And I talk about working with astrology. And yet there's been even with me, there's this disconnect of what I'm talking about and what I'm actually practicing in my life. And so I had a coaching session with the one and only Natalie Miller. And she's such an amazing coach. And she took me through this guided visualizations. And I feel like I've been investing so much in my own inner healing and inner work, doing all of these medicine sessions and now this coaching session with Natalie. And she took me on this visualization. And basically we met this guide and I was in the middle of this desert of emptiness. And behind me was this, comfy little cozy green oasis of a town. But ahead of me was nothing. More nothing, just desert. And I needed to go west towards the sun, towards the sunset, where there's all of these beautiful colors, just the sky was just painted in all of these yellows and pinks. And this guide comes forth and he kind of looks like Gandhi and, the kind of spiritual guru guide that you would expect this guide to be. Natalie had me asking the guide questions like, which direction should I go? How far will it be till I get where I need to go? Where am I going to? And the guide would reply things like, as long as you need, whatever you want, nothing. So Natalie's like, well, how does that make you feel? And I was like, well, thanks a lot, guide. I was getting a little bit frustrated with the guide, but with both Natalie helped me see was that really, honestly, I have been fully burnt out. Yes, I admit it. I am here. I'm the person that is teaching you not how to burn out while, honoring our stars. And I am the person that is sharing with you that I have fallen flat on my face with exhaustion. And so it's really interesting to kind of be at this place of reflection as I am approaching this, the 2-year anniversary of this beautiful podcast, the Savvy Luminary, and just kind of reflecting on all of the wonderful growth and everything that we've had over the last 2 years. I started this podcast on February 14th, 2020, and I started with this giant party. I flew in Chamois from LA to be a DJ. I rented out this giant space. There was so many luminaries that flew in to celebrate this podcast launch with me because I wanted to celebrate myself. And it's also my solar return, also known as my birthday. And so it's super interesting to kind of reflect on this last year and, be super proud and excited for everything that I've accomplished, yet kind of not so proud for being so prolific and just really getting to this point of exhaustion that I couldn't even recognize why I feel so tired. I can't get up. I have no creative energy. I have no excitement. And I don't want to present myself like that to you. I want to give you everything. I want to inspire you. I want to like energize you. And how can I do that for myself when I'm not there? So really this inspiration is just kind of showing you the underbelly of everything, that yes, there's all these wonderful highlights that we'd like to present and paint this like beautiful picture of ourselves in the public and on social media, but inside I'm really, really, really depleted. And that's not to say that I don't still want to give to you, but I just want to like share with you the whole truth of everything that is going on. So while I'm reflecting, and I was talking to Natalie, and we co-wrote the book for 2022, New and Full Moon Rituals for Entrepreneurs and Changemakers. And, since 2020, I feel like I've just been like writing and all these forecasts and delivering trainings and doing 2 podcast episodes a week. And we wrote the book, and, we have the year-end sales and all of these things. And Natalie is just like, I'm just getting exhausted hearing how prolific you've been. She was honest with me, and she said, after we wrote that book, it took me like a month to recover. And, she's like, reflecting back to me, she's like, you didn't even like skip a beat as you like ran into like that next project. Like, what can you prune? And so I haven't quite figured all of that out yet, because there's so many things that are coming up. But I kind of wanted to share with you kind of just the celebrations, because we still have to celebrate, right? Like, I'm still going to celebrate everything that I have accomplished, and then reflect back on how I need to really nourish my cup and maybe make some big changes for 2022, the 3rd year of this podcast. So before I go in and share all of that, I did want to invite you. This is your very, very last chance to join Written in the Stars. We start on my birthday, February 14th. And, I know I've been talking about like, I'm really like drained. And this whole weekend, I have this weekend that I'm coming up. I'm recording this on Friday, February 11th. And then we start on February 14th. But our Written in the Stars, this is like dialed in. I'm so excited. This is like, I think the 4th time that I'm delivering Written in the Stars, and we keep on tweaking and we keep on adding and we keep on like doing all these little fine tuning things. But mostly all of the work is already done. I just get to show up every single day during that week of Written in the Stars for our live office hours and chat about astrology with you. Like, that's like my favorite thing to do, is to come into circle, albeit it's on Zoom, and to chat. And I know that all of us, just like me, are feeling like really overextended, like, oh my gosh, how can we absorb more energy, information? How can we listen to more things? How can we learn new things right now? And I have designed Written in the Stars to be just these like bite-sized morsels. Every day, you're going to be given a piece of content of 20 to 30-minute training. It's really, really short, a short little exercise, and then community on Facebook. Right now, we're still on Facebook. And these trainings are designed so that we're focusing on what are all of the elements in our natal chart. How can we read the chart in 360 degrees? What do all of the symbols mean? What do those symbols mean, not just in traditional astrology, but how can we start to look at it in our work, how we do things in our business? We'll be talking about all of the different houses and what they represent in our life and in our work. And we'll be talking about the aspects, the relationships between planets, that we can start to get rid of all of that judgmental things, like squares are hard and oppositions are hard, but really reframing them to see what the magic and what the purpose of those energetic relationships are. And then we'll be putting them all together, putting the dots together, and exactly like, what do these big items mean in our business? Now, Written in the Stars, again, it is an introductory course. We're not going to be doing full-on interpretations. That's coming up in Star Powered Position, my intensive that comes up next. But all of this is to give you a solid foundation on how to look at your natal chart so that you can really apply it it with like real strategy in your work, because I know that you are a visionary, you are a change maker, and you have ideas and plans to really pour and contribute your work into society to make it a more beautiful and just place. And I want to help you get there with more ease and more flow. And, despite me being right now a little bit on the low energy side, I am going to bring all of it back to you for Written in the Stars on February 14th. So if you are interested in joining us for this live cohort of Written in the Stars, head on over to thesavvyluminary.com/mini training. Mini training is all one word, MINITRAINING. Did I spell that right? Yes, I did. thesavvyluminary.com/mini training. And you know what? If the time is just not right for you right now, no problem. I'll offer this course as an on-demand course without the office hours, and then we'll be holding it again live come August. As of today, we have about 30 people signed up. I'm so excited. There's even people who are retaking the course because they just want to refresh in their knowledge and they just love the community. So if you've already signed up, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to spending my birthday with you. Okay, so I just wanted to celebrate this podcast and thank you so much for helping me build this podcast to where it is. It is because of you that I show up twice a week to deliver star wisdom. I remember back when I first started the astrology podcast, the Savvy Luminary, back in 2020, my intentions were to bring you the Business StarCast so that you could plan your week and your month with the guidance of the stars so that we could work in alignment. And it was to also teach you about the use of astrology and other spiritual tools in your business and in your work along your entrepreneurial journey. And I must say that I absolutely love that. And in that first year, there were so many different growing pains of just like finding my voice on the podcast. And, these things are ever evolving. So we start where we're at and we get better. And now there have been people who've given me feedback like, oh, your podcasts are too long, because I would try to pack everything in 1 week. So Jeff and I decided that we were going to divvy up these podcasts to 2 episodes a week, where every Sunday I would deliver the upcoming astrology of the week for your Business StarCast, also known as your forecast. And then on Wednesdays, I would deliver an interview or some kind of other teaching episode. And, for me, once I commit to some kind of system like that, I can thank my Saturn in my first house. That discipline is like, point on. But now I'm learning how to lighten up that discipline for just, instead of just like working so hard, how can I work actually a little bit less and a little bit lighter, but still give more impact? So in the 3rd year of this podcast, I'm really looking forward to seeing how I can be more inspiring and more impactful, yet still teaching you these like really golden nuggets of astrology without giving you more than you can chew off at this time. So I would love to hear your feedback on what you would like to hear and learn more of with astrology in your entrepreneurial journey. So let's take a look at just a couple of numbers. I'll be sharing more statistics on social media. So if you want to hop onto social media and click that like button or give me a comment, that really helps my work get spread to more people just like you. So in 2020 to 2021, when I started this humble little podcast, in that first year, I provided 55 episodes with 11 interviews and touching the lives of people and listeners in 40 countries around the world. That is so amazing to me. And with just, a little humble slice of downloads of 12,433 downloads. And I know for some of us, that is a lot of downloads. And for other us, that's not that many downloads. But you know what? for that first year, it was perfect for me. And so when I look back to what we've accomplished in that second year, I'm actually really, really, really amazed. So in the second year, as we celebrate this podcast, this is episode 154. And in this last year, through 96 episodes, that's almost 2 a week. We took a tiny little break at the year end with 21 interviews with just the most amazing, beautiful souls. I just thank my lucky stars at who I am connected with, who I get to meet, who I get to collaborate with, who I get to like share all this amazing star wisdom. I just thank my lucky stars for that, to be able to bring you interviews with 21 amazing souls this year, and from 40 countries to 84 countries. When I look at the statistics on Libsyn, I can see that there are listeners in Peru. I can see that there's listeners in Guatemala, in Iceland, in Japan, in Australia, New Zealand, all over the world. Of course, here in North America, in Canada, and the United States, where I live. And it just amazes me that there are 84 different countries across the world where there are listeners, where there are people who are learning and loving to use astrology as a strategic tool in their business. And so we've almost doubled the episodes, doubled the interviews, doubled the countries that I've been able to connect with, and then tripled the downloads with 38,567 downloads as of today in 2022. So grand total, that is, it just is so many. It's really just exciting to see just the growth. And I know it's 2 years and we all expect things to just like go viral and to grow big and to grow fast. And that was never my intention with this podcast. My intention was to commit. It was to grow steadily. And just thank you. I cannot thank you, listener, you luminary listener, for joining me on this journey. In social media, I'll be sharing the top 10 episodes. It's so interesting to look at what appeals to, what like really calls people. Our number one top performing episode, of course, is the interview with the magnetic Colette Baron Reed and her episode, The Universe is Always Talking to You. And then we have number 2, this episode 111. Maybe it's that angel number 111, or maybe it's because you want more energetic visibility with less social media, with April Monique. She's still holding up the number 2 spot. Thank you, April, if you are listening. I just love your energy, and it's shining through in this podcast. And number 3 episode, Scorpio new moon back in October. So this is episode 127, calling in your authentic power in your business. Now, it's no surprise that there's a lot of Scorpio listeners here. I know Scorpio energy so well because I have so many Scorpio rising clients. And so I wonder if you are a Scorpio rising listening to this. So needless to say, I just want to thank you as a listener, thank all of the people that joined me in my guest interviews. It's just been such a fabulous year. In 2022 to 2023, my intention is just for this podcast to reach more soul-aligned, astro-curious entrepreneurs and change makers, because I know that this work is really here to help I see it like with all these visionaries. I see you as a visionary. I see you holding this big dream, this big purpose that you want to bring through in your work. And sometimes this dream just feels so big, like we can't bottle it up and we can't see it yet so clearly. And I see that this work of astrology giving us each of these stepping stones that we need. And that the more that we tune into our own astrology, the more these stepping stones present present itself. The more that we trust in our own intuition, the more that we trust in our own inner authority, the more that we trust and work towards our own sense of accountability while still contributing to the whole. And so I know that there is some spark there, some call that you also feel. So if you know anybody who is like you in that call, wanting to work with more spiritual tools and astrology in their work, please do me a favor, a birthday gift. Leave a rating and review on this podcast or share this with your business friends, because I want everybody to really use astrology as a legitimate and strategic tool for ease and impact in their business. All right. So thank you for celebrating with me. Let's dive into the astrology of the week, the Business StarCast for entrepreneurs, the week of February 13th through the 19th. Now, February is kind of a quiet month, all things considered, especially, all the ups and downs that we've gone through the last 2 years. The dust seems to be settling just a tiny bit. But this week, we have some really big shifts. We have, of course, our Mercury re-entering Aquarius after it dipped its toes back into Capricorn during the retrograde season. And then we have our full moon in Leo, time to reflect on our heart-centered love and passion, especially with Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day, whatever you celebrate. This is a time to really celebrate that self-love. It is always, we know that the full moon that is in Aquarius season is always going to be about Leo, having us reflect how much we love ourselves. And then following up at the end of the week, February 18th, the sun moves into Pisces. It is Pisces season. So this week's centering quote comes from Helen Keller. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. Yes, there's a little bit of that Aquarius, a little bit of that Pisces, a little bit of that Leo in Helen Keller's words here, a little bit of Sagittarius with the optimism and the faith. And, Helen Keller achieved so much despite her differences in her abilities. So what can we do despite our differences in our own abilities? So this week, your perspective will undergo some changes as you expand how you see things and fine-tune how you want to integrate those views. With Mercury re-entering Aquarius and our full moon in Leo asking us to release our insecurities and lean into appreciation, it's a time to hope for the best and believe in your ability to garner it. Reflect on your most optimistic potential during this time that maybe you've dismissed before. So February 14th, it is Monday. It is my birthday, my 48th birthday. Holy smokes. How did I get to 48? Because I certainly don't feel 48. I still feel like I am such a beginner at so many things in life. Although I don't know what you see of me, but there's so much, I guess, my Gemini rising that gives me that kind of youthfulness. But on February 14th, on Monday, my birthday, this podcast's birthday, the beginning of Written in the Stars, and Mercury re-entering Aquarius. This happens at exactly 1:54 a.m. Pacific, 4:54 a.m. Eastern, with what new perspectives do you want to give voice to? Mercury, now moving full speed ahead, still retracing its steps forward through the retrograde shadow zone, has now returned to forward, fast-thinking Aquarius. Mercury loves being Aquarius as it gets to revisit new ideas, thoughts of the future, and hopes for humanity. You get a second chance to clarify your New Year's goals or resolutions to reconcile anything that has shifted during that last Mercury retrograde, right? We're really like coming full circle. We have to rewrap our New Year's intentions and our goals because so many things have been rethought and what we want to do. I know that for me specifically, like going through this burnout and remembering that in the beginning of the year that I was prioritizing regeneration, how can I really achieve my goals in by still honoring my ability to rest and restore. So that's what I'm going to be reconciling. So I wonder what's coming up for you to reconcile as now Mercury is thinking about the future again. So use this time now through March 9th, when then Mercury will splash into that imaginary, elusive Pisces to galvanize your ideas and goals about the future. This is going to be especially enlightening for air sign luminaries, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. On February 16th, we have our full moon. Actually, there's a couple of things going on that day. So, we had that Valentine's Day, February 14th, and Mars and Venus, have been kind of hand in hand for at least a week now. But Mars and Venus join up exactly on February 16th, this Wednesday. And we also have this full moon in Leo. And so if you didn't have a chance to celebrate Valentine's Day, or you are vehemently opposed to Valentine's Day, this February 16th could be like a really great day to restore your love in yourself, your faith and love, to restore just this sense of self-love, because it's so important in your work. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. So today, Wednesday, February 16th, an opportunistic, illuminated day of joy and creative knowing, with the full moon in Leo shining the light of the Aquarius sun. Well, Venus and Mars, the eternal pair, exactly meet up for a strategic give and receive. Mars joins Venus at Capricorn of 16 degrees at 6:29 a.m. Pacific, 9:29 a.m. Eastern. But remember, they're holding hands for so many weeks up to come, where Mars and Venus together are receptive attunement to your mastery in your work. Venus and Mars, yes, you can think about your romantic life, but I'm here talking about your work life. Venus and Mars have been cheek to cheek most of February and will continue their dance of give and take through March. Usually Venus travels much more quickly than Mars, but because of her recent retrograde cycle, she's a bit slower than usual, and Mars is a bit quicker than usual. This eternal pair shows us balance. Venus is our ability to attract the people and resources into our lives and work. And Mars is our ability to motivate and energize ourselves in going after the things we want. The two go hand in hand, and now they are aligned in perfect union of reception. In Capricorn, this reception is attuning to your committed, long-term strategic mastery. What are you here to master in? You can take a look to see which house contains Capricorn, because this is going to show you where you need to bring in your inner authority. Especially receptive for cardinal sign luminaries, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So our full moon happens at Leo of 28 degrees. The full moon in Leo facing off with the Aquarius sun at 28 degrees. This exact full moon happens at 8:56 a.m. Pacific, 11:56 a.m. Eastern. It's such a beautiful time to do your full moon release and reflection rituals around this time. Again, remember that these reflection times are so important in our work, because it's really important to not just be always going full steam ahead, but sometimes taking a look back and seeing where you might need to shift, or you might need to prune, or you might need to dig in more, whatever it means for you. I know for me, there's a lot of pruning that's going to be going on. So full moon, Leo 28 degrees, happens at exactly 8:56 a.m. Pacific, 11:56 a.m. Eastern. The theme that was co-written with Natalie Miller and I is shining bright, hot, and whole. Remember earlier in this episode, I talked about this wholeness, and this wholeness isn't about just looking at all of the bright, shiny parts, but this wholeness, how we can shine brighter, is to also examine what's in the shadow. Because if you listen to the episode that's coming up with Asha on the day of the full moon, we'll be really talking about what it means to be whole, and what it means to be really fully brilliant in your light. There is no light without darkness. And so Natalie Miller and I co-wrote this reflection. As the full moon in Leo takes center stage, every planet in our sky is direct, which compels a lights, camera, action moment for our truest selves. It's time to trust and enjoy the confidence you're feeling. Yes, your work can be as fun as it is impactful. And yes, your passions can get you paid. My side note, if you're not having fun in your business, then you need to make some changes in your businesses. In the glow of confident Leo, it's lovely to give and receive compliments. It's also a great time to appreciate your whole self, including the innermost wisdom that guides you, the deep desires that push you forward, and the uniqueness that isn't everyone's cup of tea, but sure is delicious to you and your people. To fully self-appreciate, use this lunation of the full moon to let go of any old stories that you're not creative or compelling enough. Also, release the hurts that come from moments that have wounded your pride and whisper a thanks for the reminder that as much as you're a shining star, you're also an evolving human. With Venus and Mars in the middle of Capricorn, meeting exactly at 16 degrees, there's an infusion of passion into whatever you're building. Take note of whatever is lighting you up and turning you on. That's where to turn up the heat. So I have some full moon reflections for you based on the polarities. So if your full moon is happening in your first or your seventh house at that 28 degrees of Leo, you might be a Leo or Aquarius rising. I want you to reflect on yourself and your sense of belonging in relationships. Are you getting the appreciation and love you so desire? First and foremost, are you giving yourself the love you desire from others? In your work, the more you love yourself, the more others will adore and appreciate you. Now, you might be a Virgo or a Pisces rising if you have your second and eighth house axes activated. And if this is you, it's time to reflect on your worthiness and value that allows you to luxuriate. Are you pampering yourself as you'd like? Are you holding back rewards until you reach major milestones, equating your value with your hard work? In your work, the more you treat yourself well and savor the moments without guilt, the more others will value you. Now, you might be a Libra or an Aries rising if your full moon is happening in your third or your ninth house on that axis. If this is you, reflect on your heart-centered understanding and knowing. Are you trusting your heart and understanding her? Or are you overthinking your intrinsic passions? In your work, sharing your heart-centered creative vision with confidence, the more others will hear what you have to say. Now, if you're a Scorpio or a Taurus rising, you might have that new full moon in your fourth or 10th house, activating that fourth, 10th house axes. And if this is you, reflect on your inner rebel. Are you acknowledging your revolutionary ways as a misfit or a change maker authority? The more you trust in your inner authentic power, you'll see your differences as innovative. In your work, the more you are outside the box, the more of an expert you'll feel and the more sought after you'll be. If you're a Sagittarius or Gemini rising, you might have this full moon happening in your 5th and 11th houses, that axes. So if this is you, reflect on your creative, joyful pleasure. Are you spending time with friends and really enjoying your creative time away from work? In your work, the more you fill your cup without worrying about being productive, the more creative energy you will have in your work. Oh my goodness. I wrote this and it so speaks to me, and I am a Gemini rising. It's so funny. I have to kind of reflect back some of these things that I'm writing and I'm like, oh my gosh, this really works for me. So I'm hoping it works for you as well. Lastly, if you are a Cancer or Capricorn rising, you might have that 6th and 12th house activated for this full moon. For you, please, I invite you to reflect on your routines and your soulful self-care. Are you making space for restoration and rest? Or are your routines and systems running you instead of making things easier? In your work, the more you are responsible for your self-care, the more soul-aligned work you can accomplish. Ah, now, if you had some questions about what are those polarities and what are those axes and how do I find 28 degrees of Leo in which house, those are the things I'll be covering in Written in the Stars. That starts on Monday, February 14th. This is your last chance to sign up for this live. So head on over to thesavvyluminary.com/mini training if you would like to join me. On February 17th, we have Jupiter sextiling Uranus, where the theme is awakening social optimism. There's a door that you walk by mostly unnoticed. If you look more closely, you can see it this Thursday. This door is opportunity. It will open if you choose and see it, and if you choose to knock. Behind that door is a possibility of new connections and new optimism about the future, about social causes, and about equitable resources. It's subtle, yet it's there. If you choose to open that door, how will you choose to use this chance? Jupiter will be at Pisces of 10 degrees, sextile Uranus of 10 degrees. And then on February 18th, we have the sun entering Pisces. Bye-bye, Aquarius. This happens at exactly 8:43 a.m. Pacific, 11:43 a.m. Eastern, where it is a season of magical possibilities. How can you bring in more easeful imagination into your work this season? It's Pisces season, time to connect to your divine, magical self to make work and life easier, lovelier, and in more flow. Life is an illusion, not a delusion. When we are in the game where our reality is created from our dreams and our visions, the power of Pisces is to connect with all times, places, and spaces with empathy, artistry, love, and spirit, an interconnectedness like no other. Interconnectedness is about first connecting to your highest self, your soul, your divine spirit, whatever name you have for her. Through her, you feel into your work and trust your intuitive business decisions. Through her, you assess your vast inner knowing through Piscean efforts like dreaming, imagination, music, imagery, poetry. There is nothing logical about Pisces. So how do you go with the flow this season? Now, if you have strong Pisces placements in your chart, maybe your sun, moon, rising, or maybe Neptune or Jupiter on the ascendant, you have a dreamy, artistic, spiritual, musical vibe. Your superpowers are being able to transport yourself or others to other times, places, and spaces through your work. Your compassion and empathy are your strength. Do not try to understand or logic your abilities. Just like that Natalie Miller, she has her Pisces rising. She is so good at being able to take someone out of themselves to look at a problem in a unique way. Your compassion and empathy are your strength. Do not try to understand or logic your abilities, for if you try to grasp them, they will certainly slip through your fingers. Life is an illusion, and you are the illusion creator, a movie director of sorts. What will you direct and magically create? During this season, may we all choose compassion, empathy, and divine embodiment of flow in our work and businesses. And for all the Piscean luminaries, the most loving and flowy solar return birthdays to you. All right, Luminary, thank you so much for celebrating this second anniversary of the Savvy Luminary. Please share with me what you would like to hear more of and how I can better serve you with star wisdom in your work. Till soon. If you love this podcast, please consider doing me a favor and heading over to Apple iTunes and leaving me a rating and review. Your rating and review helps this humble podcast get seen and found by more listeners like you. Please share the love.